by our brother Sammy that if you still want to pick up the book, that there is a last day sale for those that maybe couldn't afford it. If you can give $10, he's willing to give you a discount. So he just wants you to have it with you. So go stop by this. He also has another book on witnessing that will be helpful to you. Also, does this belong to anyone? If not, I could really use it. This is really good. So if you know of, this was left yesterday on the other side. Oh, that's yours. Oh, okay. All right. Praise God. Well, we want to give the remainder of time to our brother Jack Haynes. Thank you, Pastor Jack. Would you come and bless us? Would you welcome Jack Haynes?
It was a gift. Thank you. Wow. What a morning we have had. Brother Randy, honestly, I never heard that stuff about kings and kings. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Honestly, for me, it's worth the plane trip from Sydney to come and sit under your teaching. 3 sessions. I've had the privilege of sitting there from the luncheon and some of the best teaching I think I've ever heard in my life. How blessed are you? And just to say amen. When I got out of the military, Carol and I moved back to Yuma, Arizona. That's kind of where I'm from. And a little church had started up there. Our pastor, Tom Messer, had been the president of the Full Gospel Businessmen. He had been a machinist with the Arizona Public Service. And he took over this little pioneering, charismatic work with 7 families. And the Lord joined Carol and I right after the military, right to him. And, he was Tom. He was Tom. But the moment I walked into that church, I began to call him pastor. He was just my pastor. And in many ways, I had much more ministry experience than him. He was 15 years older than me, but I had been preaching since I was 16 years old. And but I recognized that he was my pastor. And for 11 years, I served him. And my only goal in life was to make him the most successful pastor I could possibly make him in the southwestern part of the United States. I remember I was reading Jonathan's armor bearer. Remember the story where the armor bearer came in and he said, do what's in your heart, whatever's in your heart. My office was like 10 feet from his office. And I jumped out of my office and I ran to his office and I laid my Bible on his desk and I said, Pastor, I said, whatever is in your heart to do it with all of your heart because I'm with you according to your heart. I never had any desire to be the senior pastor. I only ever wanted to serve him. I feel God joined me to this man, and that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then, after 11 years of serving him, he asked me if Carol and I and our 3 babies would move to Australia. We didn't know anything about Australia. I couldn't tell you 2 things about Australia. And all I knew is that he was my pastor. And I loved him. And I trusted him. I had just got back from Africa. I just spent 4 weeks like in the Kalahari Desert, in the Okavango Delta. We were preaching the gospel out there where they'd never seen a white man before. I mean, it was amazing. I was loving it. Africa was in my blood. I was just thinking, Africa, I love it. And I get back and my pastor's wife had this vision of Australia. And of a map. And of babies falling out of the sky. And people with baskets trying to catch all the babies like rain. And they were and here over this map of Australia. And the Lord said, get your basket down to Australia. And get ready for what I'm going to do in that land. And so Pastor shared that vision with me. Carol, we just bought our new home. We just put everything we had into this brand new home. We've been in it 5 months. And we didn't, I bought this home 5 minutes from church so that I could do that, you know, because I told Carol, we'll live in this the next 20 years and we'll just serve and we'll just, I didn't know we'd be in it 5 months. But when he asked us to go, here's what I said. I said, Pastor, you're my pastor. Is this what you want me to do? I trust you. I love you. I believe you're the man of God. I've always felt safe under covering. And I've always felt that under leadership, I have protection, correction, and direction.
Amen.
And those are pretty invaluable things. Protection, correction, direction. I'll be 65 this year. I still want those things in my life. I've been a senior pastor for 30 years now in Australia. I still want those things. I still need those things in my life. Protection, correction, direction. And so people say to me, oh, Australia, when did you get the call to go to Australia? No, I never got a call. When did you get the burden to go to Australia? No burden. No burden, no call, no burden. My pastor asked me to go. And I wrapped up 3 babies and a good woman. And we landed there in 1987. And Jim Baker and Jimmy Swaggart were on the front pages of every newspaper and all the television programs. And Jimmy was on the screens and I am seeing. And I'm knocking on doors in Australia saying, hi, howdy, how y'all doing? And they're looking at me and they're looking at Jimmy and they're slamming the door. I'd go down the street with the baby in the backpack. Carolyn had the 2 other children on the other side of the street knocking on doors. That's how we pioneered in the western suburbs of Sydney. But Pastor, everything you said just resonated in my heart. I am where I am today. I found the direction of God. I found the protection of God. I found that correction. Not under an authoritarian, dictatorship. No, under a loving pastor who loves us and cares for us. And to this day, he's 80 years old. He hasn't been pastoring for years. He's still my pastor. I still fly him out. I support him. He's my pastor. And I just want to say thank you for that word, brother. And I want to echo an amen to what you said. How grateful I am to be here at the 52nd meeting. I just feel we're making history together. That's what I feel. And I know this evening we're going to have us a time during this ordination service, and it's going to be great. And but I want to share with you. When the first Sunday we ever met, we met in Sydney, our first little Sunday together, we met in the little casino, in the Leagues Club. And I think we had, let me just say, we had about, I think 20, maybe 30 some people. It took us 3 years to get 50 people. It took us 3 years in Australia to grow the church to 50. But the day we met, the very first meeting we had, we took up our first missions offering. And we set a precedent that we would be an outward focus. We would be a missions church from the get-go. That would be, and within just a few months, we had our first missions conference. And we had our first faith promises. They couldn't even afford my salary. They couldn't even pay my salary, but we raised enough money to plant 3 churches in Indonesia. Wow. So we set that precedent from the very beginning. That very first missions conference, we gave $6,000. We could plant 3 churches. And, people have asked me through the years, how have you guys done this in the missions? Because we're in the western suburbs of Sydney. That's the poor end. That's the depressed sort of end. East LA, South Chicago, Western Sydney. We're kind of out in that area. Not where the money is. It's not where the money is. And yet we watched the Lord just do this amazing thing. And we found out, I didn't even know this until 2 months ago. We found out that we as a local church now have given over $20 million to missions. Wow. I didn't even know that. We've been giving half our income to missions for years. We've been giving over $1 million a year. And we are not a mega church. You understand? We have about 1,500 names on the roll, but we have about 500 show up on a Sunday morning. A couple more hundred show up on a Sunday night, and our youth about 100, 150. I mean, if they all came, we'd have a party.
Yeah.
But I can't get those sneakers to come like but 500, 600 on a Sunday morning. So it's not like we're meeting with thousands of people releasing that kind of income. No, we've done it through faith promises. We've done it through faith promise giving, and we believe the tithe is the Lord's. We give the tithe, but then we make a faith. We each, as individuals, our children make faith promises. We make faith promises, and we've watched the Lord honor and bless faith promise giving for missions. We had a little guy a few years ago. He was, I think he was 6 years old. His name is Jackson, and he filled out his faith promise. And now the only one that looks at those faith promise cards is me and our accountant. So nobody else knows. It's a faith promise is between you and God. It's not a pledge. It's a faith promise between you and God. And so, but this little guy had a faith promise, and I looked at the figure, and it had a lot of zeros behind it. And he's a little guy, and his mom works in our school. She's part-time. His dad is I think he was the bursar in our school. So they're real blue collar, four kids. You know, I mean, they're not a family with a lot of money. And so I saw that little man's faith promise card. I was so proud of him, but I put it over to the side. I didn't add it in for our budget. You know, there are people counting on us every month for a missions check. And so I didn't add that in. But I didn't tell anybody I didn't add it in. I just didn't add it in because it was a lot of money. So I pushed it over to the side. Thank God for that little guy. His name's Jackson. And prayed the Lord would bless him. But there's no way I was going to put some little 6, 7-year-old kid's thousands of dollars faith promise into the budget. And so, you know, that when we teach faith promise giving, we teach the church to ask 3 questions. The first question is, what could I give? I mean, if souls matter, if nobody gets to heaven without the gospel, if heaven is real, hell is real, if the gospel matters, what could I give? Faith promise giving saves us from mediocre, haphazard, catch me if you can on a mission Sunday, and I got a couple bucks in my pocket before I get to McDonald's, and give me before I get there, and you can have a few of my mission, you can have a few of my dollars. Listen, we will never, ever get the gospel to the world with that kind of haphazard, mediocre, half-hearted kind of giving. No, faith promise giving is a personal challenge. It's a commitment. It's I think a Pastor Coe's story, you know, and it's on purpose. It's strategic. We step out there, but we ask 3 questions in faith promise giving. The first question we ask is, what could I give? If it matters, what could? If I just set my budget and looked at my budget and asked the question, what could I give? That's the first question we ask. Then we ask the second question, and that is, what could I give up? Now that one gets a little more, you know, that one's not as popular in the Western world. You know, the rest of the world knows about it, but the Western world, that's a little different. Now, what can I give? Come on, what can we give? Yeah, but we ask the second question, what can I give up? What can I give up? And then we ask the third question. And this is what makes it a faith promise. And that is, and what can I believe God for? What if the Lord were to trust me? If the Lord were to entrust me? If the Lord were to bring it in? What can I stretch? So I've got 2 figures, what I could give and what I could give up. And now I'm going to have a third figure. And that is, Father, what can I believe you for to this? Here's what I can do. Here's what I can give and give up. Now, Lord, what can I believe you for? What can I stretch a little bit and trust you? And because now I need God's help. I don't need God's help for giving and giving up. I need God's help for what I'm committing to that I don't have. That's called a faith promise. So we've been doing that. This little guy, he makes his faith promise, Jackson. And he has a birthday in a few months. And he asks his mom, he says, can I have a big birthday party? She said, yep. He said, can I invite lots of people? She said, yep. He said, Mom, I want to have a birthday party and nobody bring me presents. I'm thinking, what kind of a little boy? What kind of a little boy? She said, what do you want? He said, I want everyone to come and help me with my faith promise. She said, okay. And so they sent out invitations for little Jackson's, I think it was his 7th birthday. And people came, family came, guests came. But they did not come with presents, they came with cash.
Yeah, that's good.
For his faith promise. And so that little man takes his birthday cash, sets it aside. Next thing I know, I'm seeing him out in the foyer on Sunday mornings selling cupcakes.
That's cute.
Selling cupcakes. I've got this little entrepreneur. I got this little business guy here in my church, you know. And he and Mom's been baking cupcakes. He's selling cupcakes every Sunday. Every Sunday he's out there selling. Christmas comes along. He walks up to the front. I remember where I was standing, and he's got this little cellophane wrap around these personal Christmas cards that he's handmade. And he said, Pastor Jack, would you like to buy some of my Christmas cards? I said, oh, you bet, bud. I would love to buy. Then I would love to buy some of those Christmas cards. And Jackson asked 3 questions. What could I give? What could I give up? And what could I believe the Lord for? You know that little man gave $7,000. People ask me, how do you do this? How do you do? Or they'll ask me this, how do you guys plant a church every day? Because by God's grace, that's what we've been able to do, is to plant a church through an indigenous church planter somewhere in the world. We have planted a church every single day for the last 3 decades. Now, it's not hard, because an indigenous church planter is not like some white missionary that you got to send over there and pay him a matzah, and he's got to take. No, he already knows. He's already trained. He's already covered. And for about $200 a month, I can plant a church. Well, we've planted about 14,000 of them like that. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. But people say, well, how do you do that? Well, how do you, look, here's the truth. I don't even know how we do it. We do it different here. When we're in China, it's different. When we're in India, even in India, North India is a little different than South India. But see, nobody's ever asked me the right question. I have people all the time asking me, how do you do this? How do you do this? No one's ever asked me the right question. And the right question is, why do you do this? Because here's the deal, family. If you've got the why, you'll figure out how.
Amen. That's right.
You'll just figure it out. I mean, the how is not the big thing. You're going to figure it out. We do it different over here. This one did, that one worked, that one didn't work. Well, that was good, that sucks. Well, let's do this. Well, let's try that. I don't know. I don't know how. We just keep at it. We just keep at it. But it's the why. And my pastor taught me years ago that if the why is big, you'll always be able to figure out how. But here's the thing, church. If the how is big, and the why isn't, that's where people are going to get discouraged. That's where people go, mission's just a short, that just for a little while. Oh, well, we did that. Oh, well, we tried that. Oh, well, it's because your whole heart was the how and not the why. And so I want to share with you in this, my last afternoon, our last session here together today, I want to share with you in Sydney at Imaginations Church, Imaginations Church. I want to share with you what our motive is. Why? I want to share with you why. Why do we give half our income away? Why do I have single mothers taking second jobs so that they can give money to missions? Why do I have little boys and girls giving thousands of dollars to missions? Why do I have businessmen who the major focus of their business isn't even prosperity, it's giving? Well, why? Why would we do that? Man, can I tell you how much I could use all that money we're giving away to missions? I remember one year our faith promises were so high that I could have paid off all our debt. We're still in debt. But we still owe. We owe, so off to work we go. No, we owe. We're still in all kinds of debt. But I remember one year the faith promises alone could have cleared our debt. And I thought, oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. But I also knew that with those faith promises, we could plant about 400 churches, 500 churches. I knew that. And so I got to thinking, what would I rather say to the Lord if sometime during the year the rapture happened? I'd get caught up in the air and I'd meet him in the air and I'd say, guess what, sir? We paid it off. It's all paid off. I know it's burning and melting right now, but it's paid for. It's paid for. Or I could say, oh, Father, good to see you, Lord. Wonderful, sir. Look, we didn't pay it off. We planted those 500 churches right there, and we left that mortgage with the bank, and they're both burning right now. They're both melting right now. So one day we will get it all paid off. But in the process, our passion and our goal is to still plant a church every day somewhere in the world. Somewhere, every day, somewhere in the world. So I just want to share with you 4 motives that keep us going. I was just talking with one of our pastors and sisters here just a while ago, and I told her the greatest challenge is to keep this fresh and to keep this alive. And my greatest fear, we just had our 29th missions conference, and my greatest fear is it would become predictable and boring and ho-hum. And this is what we do missions instead of we die missions or we breathe missions. No, we do missions. I mean, I've got a full-time missions pastor, and I told him his job, his total reason for existence is every mission Sunday he must stand up there and bust us apart, beat us up, and break our hearts for a lost and a dying world. And as long as that's his job description. You write that down in somebody's job description. So why make fake promises? Why give so much to missions? Why have as the number 1 priority of our church the last command of the Lord Jesus? Why? I believe, the motive. The 4 whys, the 4 motives. And they're simple. But you know, the truth of the matter is, we have a debt to every man. A debt. A sense of debt. We owe the gospel. We owe the gospel, family. What is the church here for? We owe the gospel to every man and every woman. We have a sense of debt from the person sleeping out here on the street to the person in the furthest reach of the world, to the wonderful affluent neighbor down the road. We owe a debt to every man. The Apostle Paul said, Romans chapter 1, verse 14, I am a debtor, both to Greeks and to barbarians, both the wise and to unwise. This is a debt, he says, so much as in me I am ready to preach the gospel, the gospel, the gospel. We owe the gospel. We are debtors. We owe the gospel. He said to you who are in Rome also, for I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes it. We owe the gospel. Nobody gets saved without the gospel. We owe the gospel. People say, well, brother, we're praying for the lost. Great. But sometime, get up off your knees and go tell somebody the gospel. Because nobody gets saved without the gospel. We're praying for the lost. Well, Jesus didn't teach you to pray for the lost. He told you to pray for the saved, to go tell the lost. Pray for laborers. Pray for workers to get up. Some people, brother, I'm in my prayer closet. You hiding in your prayer closet. Get up. Get off your knees. Get on your feet. And let's get this gospel out. And you say, oh, are you against prayer? Of course not. I'm totally committed to prayer. I believe with all my heart. We just finished a 21-day fast and prayer. We believe in it but I also know that we think that we've done our part. It's not prayer that gets people saved. It's the gospel that gets people saved. So let's pray that we give the gospel to people. We owe the gospel to every man. I am a debtor, he says. A debtor is someone who owes something to someone else. In Genesis 4:9, the Lord says to Cain, where's your brother Abel? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? That's the mentality. That's the mentality that if we're not careful, will creep into our heart and it will creep into the church. A Cain mentality. Where is your brother Indonesia? Where is your brother China? Where is your brother Afghanistan or Pakistan? Where is your brother? I don't know. What's that to me? He's got his problem. I got my problems. Paul said that I owe a debt to every man. Family, everyone that's perishing on this planet deserves to hear what I heard. Amen. And like Pastor Randy said the other day, whether they accept it or reject it is between them and God. But whether they hear it is between me and God. That's right. And that's between you and God. And we owe this gospel message. We are debtors to get this message. We have the message that will save the world. It's the power of God to save the world. But it can't save anybody, it can't deliver anybody until we deliver it to the world. You know, years ago, I remember we had maneuvers in Germany, stationed in Germany. And I'll never forget this. They picked our platoon, our company actually, to be the aggressor forces against all the special forces in Europe. It was one of the most exciting months I ever had in my life. It was fantastic. They took us up into the Alps, and we were up there for 30 days, aggressor. We were chasing all these Green Berets and SAS and all these guys. It was so much fun. And but one day, I remember we came down. We had been high up, and we had hours and hours and hours to go to reach our pickup point, and we ran out of water. An entire infantry platoon had just run out. I mean, we were out of water. We'd been out of water for hours. Now, we weren't out of ammo. We had all of our, we had M60s, we had PRC-77s, we had all the pack, we had all the kit. It was heavy, it was hot, but we had hours and hours and miles to go, but we had no water. And I can remember how, and it was like it was summer, it was hot, it was like the dust was kicking up. And Ken, we was tasting that stuff in our mouth, and there was no water, and we were up in the Alps. And it's about as dangerous a place as you want to be, you know, with don't run out of water. And I'll never forget this, as long as I live, I still see it in my mind all these years later. We were coming down out of these Alps, and there was this little house in the middle of nowhere. There was no road, there was no, I don't know, and here was this little German grandma out in the front yard digging in her garden. I just couldn't believe it. It was like a scene out of a movie. I just couldn't believe it. And we walked up to this, here we are. We were a motley looking crew. We hadn't shaved in days. We'd been out on maneuvers. We were all kitted out. And we come walking up to this dear grandma and said, Entschuldigen Sie bitte, haben Sie Wasser? Excuse me, please, do you have any water? And she looked at us. And she said, Ja, ich habe, komm. And so she took us around to the back of this little house. And there was one of those wells, you know, with the handle. And little sweet grandma, she started doing this. And we said, oh, no. So we got over there, and we started pumping that well. To this day, I'm telling you, the most delicious, ice-cold water I have ever had in my life came out of Grandma's backyard. We drank water. I mean, we filled our canteens and drank. I mean, by the time we left Grandma, we were slush. You could hear us coming. We was no more silent. You know, we were on maneuver. We're swoosh, 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 swoosh. Yeah, but here was a thought that I've had many times in my mind. What if? What if my platoon hadn't seen that house? And what if I'm taking up the rear echelon of the platoon? And they go by, and I went running back. And I said, excuse me, Grandma, we have some water. She said, yes, I have some water. And I go back there, and I drink, and I fill up my canteen, and then I go back out. And I'm walking around with my brothers, with my boys. I'm walking. How many of them that just ain't right? Yeah. It just ain't right. Because I just found what we all need. I just found what would sustain all of us. I just found what will keep us alive. I just found what will get us to where we're supposed to go. I owe a debt to those men. If I had found what we all need. Paul said, the world needs this message. We have it. We owe it. A sense of debt. God has given us this ministry of reconciliation. Jesus said, freely you receive, freely give. Our churches must become the platform on the planet where the gospel is being sent and given and taken and carried to the nations of the world. 2 Corinthians 5:18. Now all things are of God, who has reconciled us to himself through Jesus Christ and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Paul said, I owe a debt to Greeks. I owe a debt to barbarians. Somehow we live in a society, I don't know how it is here now, but in Australia there's this kind of an attitude a lot of times that the government, that the society owes me something. That they owe me something. We get this backwards. We just feel like, well, look, I've had a bad deal, and I was poorly potty trained, so I think I'm going to break into your house and steal your television. You owe me because I don't know what it is. We've just got this mentality. It's a backwards mentality. Nobody owes me anything. I'm the one in debt here. I'm the one that owes something to somebody. There was the dean of a Bible college and a Roman Catholic priest sitting together at a table at a convention. And during the conversation, the dean, in kind of a little cheeky comment, leaned over to the priest and he said, "Father, if I believed as you do that I could pray people out of a suffering hell and purgatory, I'd spend all my time on my knees trying to get them out." And the priest answered, "And if I believed as you do, that once a man is in hell, he can never get out, I would wear out shoe leather, urging, constraining, compelling men and women to be saved now. I owe a debt to every man that is going to the judgment seat of God, from where I'm going to be acquitted. I owe the debt. I owe the gospel to every man." Why do we do missions? Because we owe a debt. The second motive that I'd like to talk about is not only is it a sense of debt, but there's a sense of devotion. A sense that we love the Lord. That we love Jesus. Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 14, "For the love of Christ compels us, because we judged us that if one died for all, then all died." Love of Christ, loving Jesus, loving Jesus. The word compel means to compress or arrest. It means to preoccupy. It means to constrain, to hold, to keep in, to lie sick of, to be in a strait. Yes, we have a debt to man, but family, we have a devotion to God. Yeah. We love the Lord. We love Jesus. We love the Lord. Jesus said in John 14:15, "If you love me, obey my commandments." Another translation says it this way: "If you love me, show it by doing what I've told you to do." This is my entire missions theology. See, I don't really believe there's a such thing as a call to missions. There's a command. There's a command to go. I don't believe there's a call to missions. Now, there's callings in the Bible, and sometimes we get things mixed up. I don't think missions is a calling. I think it's a command. There's some things that are callings. I get that. But it's like some brother sat in my office and said, "Brother, look, I just don't feel called. That love is not my calling. I don't feel like I'm called to just love." I said, no, you got that wrong, brother. No, you're not called, you're commanded to love. Love is a command, and you gotta love, and you like it or not, suck it up. You gotta love. It's not a calling. This person gets to love, this person gets to judge. No. It's a command. It's a command. So just stay with me. Some guy sit there in my office and say, "Brother, look, I just don't feel called to be faithful to my wife." No, you idiot. You're commanded to be faithful to your wife. You're commanded to be. See, we got to be careful that we don't get. There's some things that are callings. I get that. Many times the way we do missions or the way we serve the Lord can drop down into things like callings. We might do it this way or we might do it this way. But missions itself is not a call. It's a command. And here's my whole theology of mission. I am not a missiologist. I am a pastor who loves Jesus, and Jesus said, "If you love me, you'll do what I told you to do." And his last command was go into all the world and preach this gospel to every creature. You have just graduated from the Jack Haynes School of Missiology. That's it. That's all I got. That is all I got. I have nothing else. I love you, Jesus. I love you. And this is what you said to do. I'm doing it!
Amen.
Now, I know it must be more than that, but it's all I got. It's all I got. If you love me, show it by doing what I've told you to do. Count Zinzendorf of the Moravians said, to gain for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. Love for Jesus. You know that movement back a couple centuries ago, Zinzendorf had that property there in that part of the world, the German part of the world. Christians were being persecuted, and he was a young, wealthy count, and he opened up his estate. And Christians who were being persecuted could come and basically build a tent city, as it were, and a refuge, a safe place on his property. And when he opened his property and people came, they got together for prayer, and they had a prayer meeting. That prayer meeting started, and they just prayed together. Actually, the prayer meeting went all day. And all night. And actually, that prayer meeting went all day and all night, all day and all night, all day and all night for several days, several weeks, several months, for 100 years. And out of that place of heart, of love, of passion to gain for the Lamb the reward of his sacrifice, the Moravian movement was born. The Moravian movement, which influenced John Wesley, which helped change the world. The Moravians had such a love, they had such a passion for Jesus. The story is told of two young men that left to go into the world, because that's what the Moravians did. They just went into the world with this gospel message. And there was these two men who found themselves in North America, they had a slave auction. And they stood there, these young men, as human beings were being auctioned like livestock, like animals. As families were being separated with chains on necks, and this man went here, and his wife went there, and his daughter went there. And these Moravian men, when the auction was over, and the auctioneer slapped down the last bid, he said, bidding is over. And these two young men said, no. And they stood up on that auction block, and they said, let the bidding begin. And those two young men sold themselves into slavery so that they could spend the rest of their lives ministering to slaves. Now, why would they do something like that? These were young, great, fit, full of life, full career ahead. Why? Well, maybe they had a sense of debt. Or maybe they had a sense of devotion to Jesus. Stories told of two beautiful young girls left that Moravian compound. Beautiful girls. Light hair, light eyes, and these girls set out to gain for the Lamb the reward of his suffering. And the journey of these two girls led them to this walled city filled with the smell of death, with a wall, with a gate as big as from the floor to the ceiling, thick wood. And these young girls put their petite pink little hands up on the door of this walled-in city. And in a moment, the gate opened about that much, and a disfigured human being wrapped in bandages said, "What do you want?" And they said, "What is this place?" And they said, "This is a leper colony. Go away." And they said, "We want to come in." He said, "Leave. Leave, because if you ever enter this place, you can never leave." And those girls said, "Please open the door." And those young girls walked in and spent the rest of their life rapping, loving, caring, preaching, and eventually dying. Now, what is that? What is that? Maybe it's a debt being paid. Maybe it's a devotion being shown. If we love Jesus, we want others to love him too. God's love for man compelled Jesus to go into the world, and our love for God must compel us to do the same thing. It was love for Jesus that caused Carol and I to believe we were living the American dream. We had a beautiful home with a swimming pool and a sunken living room and a fireplace and a grand piano, and we were blessed beyond words. We had 3 babies, and my wife sat in her living room when Pastor asked us to go. And she began to weep and weep and weep. And she said, Jesus, this is hard. This is hard. It's hard to leave home. It's hard to leave the house. It's hard to leave our family. It's hard to leave America. And she cried and cried, and God spoke to her. And God said, Carol, if you'll give me your home, I'll give you a nation.
Hallelujah.
And Carol stood up. She wiped the tears from her eyes. We sold everything we owned and stuffed everything else in 11 of my old Army duffel bags. Because we love Jesus, and I can tell you right now, if I lived long enough, I wish I had 100 homes to leave for Him. I wish I had 100 countries to give up for Him. I mean that with all of my heart. A sense of debt, a sense of devotion. To me, this has never been complicated. The most natural response from a church that truly loves Jesus is to commit our best resources, our best personnel, our best organization, our best administration to fulfill the Great Commission. It just makes no sense. How could it be anything else? Hudson Taylor was born in Yorkshire, England in 1832. At 21 years of age, he set sail for China, not having a clue what was waiting for him there. And he founded the China Inland Missions. One of my closest friends today in the world is a great-great-grandson of a first convert of Hudson Taylor's. And he, right now, is a missionary in China as well. Hudson Taylor spent 51 years in China. The society he began was responsible for bringing over 800 missionaries to that country and began in 125 schools. A direct result of 18,000 Christian conversions, as well as the establishment of more than 300 stations of work, more than 500 local helpers in all 18 provinces. Taylor was able to preach in several varieties of Chinese, including Mandarin, and Chaozhou, and Wu, and some of the other dialects. The last of some of these dialects, he's actually able to put together the New Testament. Hudson Taylor buried a child. Then he buried another child. And 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 then he buried his wife. And in 1905, he himself was buried near the Yangtze River. You know, while recruiting missionaries in England, he wrote these words. Oh, for the eloquence to plead the cause of China, for a pencil dipped in fire to paint the condition of this people. He said this, if I had 1,000 sterling pounds, China would have it. If I had 1,000 lives, China would have them. No, not China, but Christ. Can we do too much for Him? Can we do enough for such a precious Savior? Hudson Taylor, what are you on about? What are you talking about? A sense of debt. A sense of devotion. There's a third motive, and that is a sense of duty. Come on, America. We used to understand that word. We used to have a sense of what that word meant. Duty. Duty. The Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 16, for if I preach the gospel, I have nothing to boast of. Necessity is laid upon me. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. A modern paraphrase says, if I proclaim the message, it's not to get something out of it for myself. I'm compelled to do it, and I'm doomed if I don't. Oh, Jesus. Woe is the church if we do not get this gospel to the nations. Woe is this generation if we do not do our duty. This sense of duty was in the Lord Jesus. He said in John 9:4, I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day, for night is coming when no one can work. It is our duty to preach the gospel. It is our duty to get the message to perishing people. In Mark 16:15, he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. We are ambassadors of Jesus Christ. We must do our duty. This is our duty. Americans have understood duty. American soldiers, American service people, Americans, all our history is filled with wonderful and glorious and amazing acts and commitment to duty. To duty. I read this yesterday in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him. We are soldiers. Yes, we're a bride. I love that. Yes, we're a body. I love that. Yes, we're a family. I love that. But we're soldiers. We're soldiers. We can't be one and exclusive to the other. We're all of that. We're all of that. We're soldiers. We have a duty. We have a call. We have a commander. We have a commission. Sense of duty. In 1839, when James Calvert went out as a missionary to the cannibals of the Fiji Islands, the ship's captain, as they approached the shores of Fiji, and these big Fijian warriors were standing there on the beach, the ship's captain, who had grown so fond of James Calvert and his crew that were with him, his team that were with him, he begged them, he begged them, please don't go ashore, please don't go ashore. He said, please don't go ashore. He said these words, you will lose your life and the lives of those if you go among those savages. James Calvert turned and he looked at that captain and he said, sir, you don't understand. He said, we died before we came here. What? Why would you, what? What would motivate that? We died before we came here? What would motivate that? I don't know. Maybe a sense of debt. Maybe a sense of devotion. Maybe a sense of duty. In 1887, 32-year-old missionary from Scotland, John Keith Falconer, died in the Arabic nation of Yemen of malaria. You know what? He was a world-class athlete. He was a champion cyclist. He was from an aristocratic family. What is a rich, young athlete, 32 years of age, dying of malaria in Yemen? What's up with that? His own words, before he died, his own words. I have but one candle of life to burn, and I would rather burn it out in a land filled with darkness than in a land flooded with light. John Getty was born in Scotland in 1815. He and his wife and their children sailed to the islands of the South Pacific in 1846. And they based out of the islands of the New Hebrides, which today we know as Vanuatu. His parting message when he left: in accordance with the Redeemer's command and assured of his presence, we are going forth to those lands where Satan has established his dark domain. I know that suffering awaits me,
But to bear the Redeemer's yoke is an honor to one who has felt the Redeemer's love. One day, Getty came upon a group of women, and they were wailing and rubbing at the corpse of a man on the ground with leaves. And some were pulling their hair, and they were shrieking violently. And the man's widow, an attractive young girl, sat nearby, expecting any moment to be strangled. Getty said, "This woman must not be killed." And he started leading her from the scene. Immediately, some men assaulted him, knocked him to the ground, seized the young widow, and while some of the women held down the girl's arms and legs, the men proceeded to strangle her, and until they strangled her to death. When Getty again tried to intervene, the men drove him away with clubs. The murderous deed was now done. And knowing that the savages were infuriated and that he was further risking his life, he gently stood and told the people of the foul darkness of their deed. "According to our custom and belief, this is right. Be gone or we will kill you." But he didn't leave. He stood and he began to tell them of a wondrous love which led the Son of God to give up the praise of angels for the mockery of men, to exchange the diadem of ages for a crown of thorns, to die on a cross that the dark-hearted sinners of earth might be changed and receive at last into a heavenly home. And as he spoke, clubs were lowered, and people became wistful and attentive. There's something even in the darkest heart that responds to the story of a suffering Savior's love. Yeah. One day, a chief named Yakanui came to the missionary. Yakanui was a human monster. He was the greatest cannibal on the island. There were very few children left in his district because he had killed and eaten so many of them. Many grown adults had also fallen under the impact of his murderous club. He was hated by the people, yet feared for his ferocity because they believed he possessed mysterious powers by which to bring ruin upon them. But attracted by the gospel of forgiving love, he came to the missionary, who tenderly pointed him to the Redeemer who was able to save to the uttermost. Schools were established in all parts of the island. The Bible was translated and put into the hands of the people. Hundreds, then thousands, broke from heathenism and turned to Christ. When he first arrived in Vanuatu, this is what he wrote in his journal. "In the darkness, degradation, pollution, and misery that surrounds me, I will look forward in the vision of faith to the time when some of these poor islanders will unite in the triumphant song of ransomed souls, singing unto him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood." Amen. After 24 years of toil, on the 14th of December in 1872, John Getty died. A tablet prepared in Sydney was placed behind the pulpit of the church where he had for so long preached. You can go there to this day and you can read these words. "In memory of John Getty, Doctor of Divinity, born in Scotland, 1815. When he landed in 1848, there were no Christians here. And when he died in 1872, there were no heathen. A sense of debt, a sense of devotion, a sense of duty. And as I finish, there's a sense of destiny. Like this is our day. Like this is what we were created for. Like this is why God has put us in the ministry. Like we've come together for such a time as this. In 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9, But you are a chosen generation. This generation is a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Family, pastors, brothers and sisters, Ohana, I'm telling you, we sit here this afternoon, this morning. We are chosen. We are chosen. We're going to finish this just like we started it with Pastor Cole the other day when he stood up there and he said, chosen, chosen, chosen for his glory. I believe a sense of destiny is over this. And the Bible, Peter finishes up in this 50-second conference by saying, you are a chosen generation. Chosen generation. We are the generation that can and will do what Joel prophesied. We are the generation. We have the means. We have the resources. We have the funds. We have the people. We have the gospel. We have the push of heaven. We are the generation that will usher. I believe with all of my heart. We are the generation that will trigger the greatest event in the history of the world, the return of the Lord Jesus Christ. The harvest is our destiny. To be on the cutting edge of the sickle. Oh, Hawaii, to be on the cutting edge of the sickle is our destiny. It's our destiny. God has chosen us. He's chosen us. In spite of our weaknesses, in spite of our frailties, in spite of our pasts, He's chosen us. We have received this good news. We have received this life-giving message. And now there is a sense of debt. And now there is this, come on guys, now there is a sense of devotion. And now there is a sense, come on somebody, duty. It's not a bad word, duty. And I'm telling you, family, there is a sense of destiny. Destiny. Oswald J. Smith said, any church that is not seriously involved in helping fulfill the Great Commission has forfeited its biblical right to exist. I want to just finish with one last scripture, Pastor, before I turn it back here to you.